Good morning, good people. Today is Friday, April 11th, 2025. Cool. My name is Edward Bevilacqua, and this is the Department of Career Services, where our goal is to help our students and interested people experience this life. How's that? How's that? To experience this life. Not on this journey through life. Life is an experience. It's not a journey. Wow, that's come a long way in the last couple of years, right? I have to go back and look at some of the old videos to see what they said about that. But life is an experience. How about that as an idea, where we get to do whatever we want? And though we are called by God to believe that Jesus, to believe in his son Jesus. What does that mean? To do what he says. We are called to believe in Jesus. And if we do, we will not die. We will have everlasting life. And Jesus goes on to say, if you follow my commands, you will become one with the Father and I. Cool. Or as they used to say when I was very young, cool, Daddy-O. Like on the Dobie Gillis show. Cool, Daddy-O. So, what are his commands? If you love me, you will keep my commands. Okay, what are the commands? There's really basically three. Love God with all your heart and mind and soul. Love one another as I have loved you. And number three is make disciples of all nations. That's it. So we're here to help people experience this life given and help them follow Jesus' commands. Boom. Okay, good morning. What not a bevy? How are things in Fort Jacks? Number one. Number two, have you heard from Catman Joe or Lucy? That's part of your job. You're the person for that job. Okay. Well, all right. So what is our theme of today? What is our themo-memo? Any idea what not a bevy? Did you get a notification? Let's see if I did. Notification. Lone nut. Notification. Lone nut. Boy, that's fast. Lone nut. Where'd it go? Lone nut or first follower? You choose. Lone nut or first follower, you choose. What would human? Lone nut. Okay, well, we are humans. And we should act like humans. We should act like colorful nuts. Lone nut. Do you want to be a lone nut or a first follower? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings of outrageous fortune, or to take up arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. Which do you choose? To be a lone nut or a first follower? Next week, we're going to spend some time learning about Ignatius of Loyola. Both. You want to be both. Okay. Good answer, if for the right reason. So we're going to learn about Ignatius of Loyola, who for a while, let's say, maybe 3 years, was a lone nut. Almost got himself burnt at the stake or killed or both because he was a lone nut. Then all of a sudden, something good befell him and he became a what? He got a couple first followers. And then he went from being a lone nut to a leader. But we'll learn more about that in a minute. Because we are in week 3, day 5. Derek Sivers is the host. The TED Talk is from Derek Sivers, and he uses those terms, lone nut and first follower. So we're going to talk about that. But before that, let's get some advice from an 80-year-old. Show respect for everyone who works for a living, regardless of how trivial their job. What do you say about that? What do you say about that, Watanabe Bevy? Show respect for everyone who works for a living, regardless of how trivial their job. What do you say about that? I think the key word there is regardless of how trivial. Not, well, what if somebody works in what's an evil job? As a hitman for the mafia, which doesn't exist. What if someone does that for a living? Should you show respect for them? No, because this is no matter how trivial, and that's not really trivial. Killing people is not trivial. It's kind of the opposite of trivial. Okay, now, moving right along. So I would say absolutely not true if you focus on the words. If the job is a legitimate job, then I think the thing is, yes, show respect no matter how trivial. If it is a job that is good. Buddhism speaks of right livelihood. Good. Who's going to speak for left livelihood? That's what I want to know. Who's going to speak for left livelihood? Everybody's speaking for the right. Who's going to speak for the left livelihood? A job causing harm to self or others should not be held. Right. Good point. There we go. Buddhism 102. All right. So let's see what else we got here on our hit parade. Seth Godin. Why and how? This would have been good for Wednesday when Simon Sinek was talking about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. They don't buy how you do it, they don't buy what you do. Or, Let's get rid of science class in school. Instead, beginning in kindergarten, we should devote a class to curiosity and explanation, a class that persistently and consistently teaches kids to ask why and answer how. That was the story of my life, where my mother said my first word was why, and I would drive her crazy. Because I'd always ask why this, why that. And she would, I literally just scream at me, stop asking me why. The good old days. The unacceptable single word answers are because and magic. Why does this happen? It's magic. Curiosity is a skill and it can be taught. Beginning in kindergarten, we should devote a class to curiosity and explanation. One of the things I like most about this is teaches kids to ask why and answer how. You got to be able to figure out the answer. You don't get to say because or it's magic. Yesterday we talked about magic, and the question was, is it real magic or the magic that people can actually do, which isn't magic? Okay. Interesting. What else do we have on our hit parade? Well, what's our time check? 9:38. Let's talk about Derek Sivers and first followers and lone nuts. So the TED Talk below, Derek Sivers, 3 minutes. Well, the TED Talk is actually a little bit longer than 3 minutes, but it's short. But in there's parts of a 3-minute video. And the 3-minute video takes what we've learned this week and shows it all, breaks it all down. So what's happening is there's a bunch of people sitting on the grass. You just see them sitting on the grass. And then a guy gets up and he starts dancing. So we go back to Seth Godin's formula. Find part of the status quo to change, tell a compelling story, connect the true believers and ignore the non-true believers and lead them. So the status quo of this video is people are sitting on the grass, probably listening to music. There might be a concert off in the distance. A bunch of people, a lot of people. One guy gets up and he starts to dance. Derek DeSivers describes that guy as a lone nut, not a leader. He's just a lone nut. He's a guy out there dancing. And then all of a sudden, one other guy gets up and he starts dancing with him, not at the same time, but they don't know, they apparently don't know each other, but this other guy gets up and then they start dancing together. Probably taking on the crowd because the lone nut is out there and the other guy doesn't want to be another lone nut. So you got that guy. And pretty quickly, another guy comes. And then the guy who's the first follower, he starts getting other people to do it. And the first guy is just continuing to dance. And as this goes on, more and more people more quickly get up and start dancing to the point where when it ends, everybody is up and dancing. So that brings in a lot of questions. Sociologists would ask, well, some people ultimately get up because they don't want to stand out by not getting up. And that's something like the 100th brick or the 100th person. How many people throwing a brick through a window? How many people have to throw a brick through a window until somebody who wouldn't normally throw a brick through a window actually does the same bad behavior just because they don't want to stand out? It's not that they actually believe in it, but everybody else is doing it, so they're going to do it. Anyway, back to this. So Derek Sivers focuses on the point that you have to be willing to be a leader. You have to be willing to be a lone nut. You have to be willing to stand out from the crowd. Color keeps changing. So what do you say about that? And if you have a compelling story, you will always get a first follower. And then he has rules for the first follower. And that is you have to treat the first follower as an equal. And then what happens is more people join. They don't follow the leader. They follow the first followers. They follow other people. And while the leader is just constantly doing his thing, the first followers are bringing in more followers who are becoming first followers for other people. And then the thing spreads. And it could be that the last person or the next person who actually joins in is only sort of doing what the first follower did, what the leader did, meaning, yes, they're dancing, but the way they're dancing is very different from the lone nut. Because what did the lone nut need to do? He needed to get attention. He needed to get enough attention to get some first followers out there. Whereas the people who are only doing it because they don't want to stand out, because they would stand out if they didn't do it, they're only kind of doing a little bit because they don't want to draw attention to themselves, not because they want to do that. So the question is, what do you want to be, a lone nut or a first follower? Or as Wada Bevy said, both. Okay, let's deconstruct that. Let's deconstruct that. Both. When both? When both? What would David Logan say? Join tribe, what? nudge forward. So when you join a tribe, are you generally joining as a lone nut? No, you're joining as a follower. You're a member of the tribe, not the leader of the tribe when you join. Then he says, nudge it forward, which would be to do what? You find something to change. So first you go in, you join a tribe, you're not the leader. You join, according to Dave Logan. How do you start this? Join it. How do you get people to go on your journey, to help you on your journey? Well, you join a tribe. And Watanabe has joined several tribes out there, right? There's your tribe of where you're living, your tribe at your Planet Fitness, your tribe at school, your tribe at the other job, your tribe that was at the other restaurant. You have all of these tribes are part of it. If you go to church, your church tribe, your Buddhist tribe, we're all parts of tribes. And when we start, we are what? We're members of the tribe. We're not the leader of the tribe, we're members of the tribe. David Logan says, if you want to get people to join you, you have to join the tribe, you're a member of the tribe, and then nudge it forward. And then Seth Godin comes the next day and he says, well, here's how you nudge it forward. Find part of the status quo to change. What can we say? Hey, we can do this better, or this sucks, or whatever. We're going the wrong direction. How do they know what direction we're going? Yeah. Right? From planes, trains, and automobiles. How do they know what direction we're going? Find part of the status quo to change, tell a compelling story, connect the true believers, ignore the rest. So now back over to Derek Sivers, the lone nut who became the leader. He wasn't dragging people out of there against their will. If somebody didn't want to get up and dance, he didn't say, what's up, man? Come on. He just focused on doing what he did. Right? Now, I think some of the first followers or some of the followers might have pulled people out, but they are not the leader. They're not the person who was the lone nut. Connect the true believers, ignore the non-true believers, and then step 4 is lead them. And Derek Sivers demonstrates that very, very clearly, very easily, and that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Is the Seth Godin thing and the Derek Sivers thing. And you have to be willing to be a lone nut. You have to be willing to stand out for what you believe. You have to tell a compelling story. And the key word is compelling. The next 2 days, we're going to watch some of those from Jerry Maguire. We're going to see the first day tomorrow, Saturday, we're going to see some bad efforts at telling a compelling story, telling a non-compelling story, and seeing what happens. And then the next day, we're going to see Jerry Maguire telling a non-compelling story to Rod. Rod then he responds by telling a non-compelling story to Jerry, and it kind of ping-pongs back and forth. And then they leave both impacted, but not willing to become the first follower of the other. Interesting. Muy interesante. Okay, let's see if there's anything else on the hit parade before we wrap this up. This is Friday. That means we got to make something happen. Make something happen. Jordan Peterson talks about maturity. Daily Stoic is a good one about justice. Darren Hardy. Another one about operating. I got to change that. Boom. That was a good one about intensity. Having intensity. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. People. And with that, Watanabe, can I give you a call? Are you working today or would? Call, yes or no? Call, yes or no? Hurry. Send me it. Okay, good.